Okey-doke. My name's Simon, as Matt said. I'm just finished a PhD in marine science. I always tell people I'm a marine biologist before I tell them what I actually do, which is look at mud from the sea. It's quite as glamorous. Two things, as Matt mentioned, that I'm interested in are food webs, what eats what in the sea, and pollution, which is probably one of the bigger environmental problems that marine environments are facing at the moment. I'm also, I mean, Matt said I'm a surfer. I kind of feel slightly embarrassed saying that because I started in the mid-90s. In the university, if you're doing marine biology, you get to do all your final year lectures out at Cullercoats at the marine lab there. And there used to be this guy who'd, I remember we were having our lectures in December, and we'd go up and get chips at lunchtime from one of the shops, and there'd be this guy paddling up the road in a wetsuit with an absolute gale blowing up the road. I just remember thinking, oh, it's amazing, I really want to try it. And so eventually I managed to get hold of the board, got some money, got a board, and started, and sort of plus 10 years later, I've just about managed to stand up. This is me surfing in Tynemouth. This is probably something a bit more like it. I'm like that guy there. But one of the things that I really want to talk about today is what I know about, which is the North Sea and some of the food webs. There was a group working out of Durham in the early 90s who published quite a famous paper, which was published in Nature, one of the biggest scientific journals that there are. And what they reported was parallel trends in different components of the ecosystem of the North Sea. Now this figure I haven't scanned it very well, unfortunately, but I'll just explain it to you. They got data from the North Sea which showed that the phytoplankton, the tiny single-cell plants that grow in the surface waters, the zooplankton, little animals that eat those plants, herring and kittiwake chicks, all showed these long-term parallel trends, which you can't see the scale, but that's going from 1940 to 1990. And these seem to correlate with weather patterns, particularly westerly winds going across the UK. Right, 16 years on, this sort of observation has been teased apart a bit more. Is this enough graphs, do you think? It seems to be related to carbon, to global warming and climate change in the North Sea. So these graphs are all from different areas of the North Sea, and they show sea surface temperatures. And you'll notice that, generally speaking, most of them show an upward trend, most recently from the 1980s. And this is something we hear about quite a lot. I've been amazed in the last few years how this is in the news every day. And scientists are only just beginning to really piece together how climate change is happening, but also what its effects are on the natural environment. And it certainly seemed that climate change seems to be behind the observation of Ayrshire in 1990. I really like this graph. This is a food web, and it seems there's a group down in Plymouth who appear to have come up with the answer to the observation of Ayrshire, and they say that this is happening through the food web. So this is a food web that a guy called Alistair Hardy, who's a very famous marine biologist in the 1940s, made for adult herring in the North Sea. You can see it's incredibly complicated and couldn't possibly really begin to make sense of it. Very recently, one of the things that you find when you get sea surface warming is that you get all these different new species moving in that wouldn't normally live there. We know that there's been an increase in red mullet. There's a red mullet fishery in the North Sea now, which never happened before. There's squid, which are being caught commercially, didn't happen at all until recently, and horse mackerel as well. And there's also been reports of larger species at the top of the food chain, and I'm talking about big, scary killer sharks. Now, as a surfer, or somebody who goes out on a surfboard, this isn't the sort of thing that I want swimming around in the North Sea. It's one of the reasons I really like the North Sea, because there isn't anything big that's going to eat me in the water. And being added to the food chain of the big, scary killer sharks is really, really horrible. So, is this the sort of thing that we're going to be likely to see at Tynemouth Longsands in the next few years, or the near future? This is actually quite a famous photo. It's on a lot of talkboards that surfers go on, and it was taken by this guy, Kurt Jones. Basically, it seems likely that this photo, it's attracted quite a lot of attention, that it's not actually a shark at all. The photographer actually posted this photo on his webpage, which shows, and he claimed that it was a dolphin. And that's one of the big problems, because recently there's been a spate of sightings or reports of apparently sharks in the northeast. This photo was in the Chronicle in 2005, apparently taken by a fisherman in the mouth of the River Tyne. And he swore blind it was a shark, apparently. It bumped his boat. But I have to say, I'm rather sceptical about this, because if you look, the dorsal fin here is curved at the back, which is quite indicative of dolphins, and it's got a sort of rounded, it's rolling basically in the water, it looks like, which is not something sharks do. And sharks rarely show up in the mouths of rivers anyway, particularly in boreal waters in the northern hemisphere where we live. So these sorts of reports seem slightly unlikely, probably a dolphin. Recently, in 2000, actually, let me talk about this report here. In 2005, in the Daily Mail we got, is there a killer shark off Britain's coastline? And they gave this big report saying that there's been a lot of sightings of washed up dolphins and seals, often with big bite marks out of them. And from this they concluded that there was a kind of rogue shark off the northeast. A little bit of investigation indicates that, you know, it seemed to me it's really unlikely that we've got killer sharks showing up in the northeast. More recently, there were some reports in the late summer of this year that there was a kind of poor beagle shark caught off Sunderland. In fact, there were two quite large ones, but these were sort of, 12 miles off the coast. And again, they're open water sharks which eat herring and cod, fish like that. Not really likely to go for humans, although apparently my researchers on the net indicate that they have been known to attack human beings. In fact, if you go out of the building, you'll see a poor beagle shark over the doorway that's preserved, and you sort of get an idea of something that they look like, although it's slightly blackened and quite old. Anyway, so what's to be concluded from this? I've no idea. Basically, I wouldn't really worry about surfing too much if you're thinking of taking it, or if you're carrying it already. And I'll just leave you with this thought. Thank you very much.